meeting of the Town of Nipawin held in the council chambers of the town office on April 7th, 2025 at 7 p.m. This meeting is being held on Treaty 6 territory in the homeland of the Métis. We extend our gratitude to those who came before us and have called this ancestral land home for generations. We respect and honor the treaties, reaffirm our relationships with one another, and move forward together in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. We'll call to order at 7 p.m. So approval of the agenda. I do have, before I call to everybody else, we've removed items 15.3.1, 15.3.2, 15.4.1, and 15.4.2, bylaw numbers 1180/24, second, third reading and adoption, and bylaw number 1194/25, second, third reading and adoption. I've also requested to add additional item 12.1, Nipawin Citizens on Patrol, request for donation. And I'd also like to add under new business 14.1, request to have extend the hotel stay in Saskatoon after SUMA so I can do a CTV television interview. So those are the ones that we have for sure. Were there any more from administration and council? Okay. That the agenda for the April 7th, 2025 meeting be approved as amended and attached to form part of the said minutes. Councillor Blair. All those in favor? That's carried. And declaration of conflict of interest. Do we have any tonight?
Yeah, what number was it? 9.2.3.
Okay, thank you, Les. Anybody else see any that they might have? If you missed it and it shows up later on, just let us know. That the minutes of the March 24th, 2025 regular meeting of council be approved as presented. Councilor Miller. Everybody's had a chance to review the minutes. Were there any errors or omissions? All those in favor? That's carried. All the way down, that the financial reports for April 7th, 2025 be approved as presented. Councilor Stewart. All those in favor? It's carried. That the, oh, I was going to ask, were there any questions? I missed that. But Maria's reports have been pretty straightforward, so.
I didn't have a question.
That the department monthly reports be received and filed. Council. And the first report we have is Michelle.
I don't really have anything to add other than what's in my report. Things have been going really well here. We're getting well underway in the new year. Yeah, I'll be heading off to SUMA next week. So if anybody has any questions from my report or any other questions.
Any questions for Michelle? Thank you. And our next one is operations and engineering. Jamie?
Yeah, nothing really to add. Just waiting for spring to come so we can start sweeping our roads and cleaning up from the winter. And that's about it.
Do we have any questions or comments for Jamie's report?
How your catch basins, are they all froze up?
No, it's actually they're open.
Didn't see any water laying around town, so yeah,
It's been good.
that's right on.
It was a struggle.
Yeah.
It was a struggle there for a couple weeks. So with the temperature fluctuations, yeah, but it's getting better now. The odd one does.
That's good.
Jamie. The next one is the spring cleanup days from May 20th to 23rd. I imagine everybody's had a chance to review it, but maybe you want to give us just a quick rundown, Jamie?
Yeah, we just do a spring cleanup, just the clean wood and other household items that are on the list. This is the first week after May Long. We've been doing it every year for the last 4 years that I've been, 5 years that I've been here. It takes us about, the public works people, about a week to go right through town, so we're offering that service again this year.
Thank you, Jamie. Water Security Agency, we've got a couple there. We'll start with the lagoon compliance inspection.
Yeah, I can touch base on both,
Sure.
if you like. This is just an inspection that the Water Security Agency comes to the water treatment plant and goes through all our procedures and all of our, records, and everything looks good. Yeah.
Any questions on either of those inspections? Pretty straightforward every year. Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Next, we've got Leisure Services Department and Chelsea.
Sure, so the arenas and the curling rink are all closed now for the season. Maintenance and repairs will start in those facilities now, along with some bookings. We are hiring summer staff currently and struggling with our student positions. We aren't having university students come home anymore. They're having to rent in the city and then they're working in the cities. They're not coming back home over the summer. And that's definitely affected our student labor positions. So we'll be looking at that over the next year and just seeing how we can kind of resolve that issue. Other than that, it's been busy getting the spring stuff ready and going, and yeah, that would be the restaurant RFP should be released this week as well for the Evergreen Center.
Thank you, Chelsea. Do you have any questions?
I do, just with the summer student one, with that, do the students have to be university students? If we're like,
They don't have to be, and we have been hiring high school students.
Okay.
But we do prefer university students because when we really need them is May and June.
okay.
And so high school students don't really work for us in May and June. We have in the past hired a couple high school students, and we look like we'll have out of the 5, 3 of them probably will be high school, which
Okay.
isn't great for us. We do kind of try and tweak it a little bit where we'll have possibly a university student that's signed up for the play program. So they'll be hired for the play program. It doesn't start until July. So we put them on grasshoppers in May and June and then transfer them over in July to the play program and then hire a high school student for June and July in the grass cutting.
Yeah, I was just
Big
wondering if you're
general.
having a hard time finding them, if that's an option for you then too.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Chelsea. And our last one is the fire department report. Paul, how are you tonight?
Good. Yeah, well, spring's coming, so of course, as things thaw, I get to go Easter egg hunting and finding sharps, so it's what I've been on the last few weeks. Number of rollovers last month, I don't know what was going on, but everyone seemed to roll their vehicles. 2 of them, we had to actually have the occupants of the vehicles took off, so that was kind of interesting, so hopefully that doesn't become a trend. But yeah, other than that, I think everything is as per usual. Any questions or comments, Mr. Shoot them my way.
Thank you.
I just have one comment or question comment. I know that I had mentioned before, now with spring coming and you're talking about the sharps starting to show face, and even on the Nipawin website, it says about like the parks, the playgrounds, that kind of thing. Have you talked to the schools about doing any kind of presentation there with the principal, just about the safety for kids?
April 29th.
Perfect. Perfect.
Any other questions or comments for Paul? Thank you, Paul. All right, so that's all of the reports. All those in favor? It's carried. That council hereby awards the tax title property tender for the property located at 307 4th Street North, Lot 14, Block 6, Plan 101620905, Extension 79, to Colleen and Vern Cozen for the tendered amount of $9,700, and that this property sale shall be ineligible for any further incentives. And Michelle.
Yeah, so, excuse me, this property was acquired by the town through the tax enforcement process, and tax enforcement legislation requires that within a year of obtaining title, we're required to offer it for public sale. And although the $9,700 does not cover anything that was owing on the property, selling it will bring property taxes in more quickly than having it sit in our inventory for years and years, because they'll be required to build within 2 years, and we'll start receiving tax revenue faster than if we had it sitting in our inventory. So
Liz?
Is it an empty lot or is there buildings on it?
it is now an empty lot. There was a building that was,
Take it down.
There's a
Yeah.
fire.
Okay.
yeah, I guess I can say it was the one where there was a fire on 4th Street North.
Any other questions or comments? Great. All those in favor? That's carried. That council hereby authorizes payment of $27,027.50 plus GST to Allied Infrastructure for the preparation of as-built drawings for the water treatment plant as recommended by the GM of Operations and Engineering, with funds to be allocated from Reserve WS Future Capital, GL account number 310100802. Councilor Stewart. And Jamie.
Yes, so there's some history with Allied Engineering. A few of the councilors here have been involved in this with this, not from the very beginning of this water treatment plant, when it first started with Integrated, and then it got switched to Allied. But I'll give you a little bit of a history here. When I come in 2021, January 2021, Integrated Engineering was the town of Nipawin's engineering of choice. They were, for my understanding and what I was told, is that they were given the engineering of the water treatment plant. So 100% of all engineering that could have been charged to the ICIP grant was not, so because they never RFP'd it. So the town of Nipawin covered 100% of this company, Integrated. In 2023, 3 of the engineers that were with Integrated moved and made their own group, Allied Infrastructure, which my understanding, and it's just my understanding, put Integrated Engineering in a very tough spot because they had no engineers to finish any of their projects. So you more or less had to go with Allied Engineering, or else you'd have to bring a whole engineering firm, open up a checkbook, let them get updated with the whole project to finish it off. And we were at like the last 5 of the project to finish. So the town of Nipawin moved to Allied. Since then, that project is complete. In 2023, in the beginning of 2024, I've been asking for as-builts. Michelle has been involved in all the emails, Ms. Sorensen, I mean. It took them over a year to get me the as-builts for this project. And I just got this invoice about a month ago that we owe $27,000 for these as-builts, because we have nothing in agreement wise or anything like that, there's nothing we can. So I am asking to pay this amount out of the reserve engineering and cut all ties with Allied Integrated. So that's good. But that's the gist of this one.
Thank you, Jamie. I imagine there might be a few questions.
Yeah.
Well,
Don't get me started. I worked on that job in Nano, man. But, yeah, I'll keep that to myself because the town was,
do we have any other questions, Jeff?
Just a comment, there's no other way we could have got these as-bills, and we need these, so.
They're a requirement from the Water Security Agency. I had to start putting, I'm gonna be honest, I had to start putting CC in the Water Security Agency because they're demanding them for closing out the thing, so they know what our plant is all about, right? All the as-bills. And, so I even started CCing her and it didn't help. And then finally, January, they sent me a bill from the January work in last month, so.
Joyce?
Well, when I look at the invoices, there isn't a whole lot of detail there. How do you know this work was actually done?
Well, I
Is
asked
there
for,
something that can verify that? And does it satisfy for the grant and everything?
the grant is finished.
No, but the reporting that you had to do.
Yeah, like this, the as-bills have been passed on to the Water Security Agency. We have them filed here in the town of Nipawin. I asked for a detailed, and this is what I've got. A breakdown, a very minimal breakdown of who did what for how many hours and what they charge you per hour. And they gave us the as-bills in a file. I honestly, I could say a lot of things, but I should just not. Unless, yeah,
Sounds like all the more reason to pay the bill and cut ties, like you said.
I've had issues with both this group since I got here.
Do we have some more questions or comments?
Just a comment that integrated changed into this whole breakdown right in the middle of the project, so there really wasn't a choice that we had. So we had to spend our position, I guess. We had to go with Allied, and this is just, I recommend we pay it because we need to have it in there.
Kind of shows their character by doing that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does, and maybe we just don't do further business.
No letters of reference.
And the fact that it took us over a year to get the drawings that we required for the Water Security Agency.
Less.
so who do we go to next? Do we have somebody in the wings? Do we have a
We're working
You
with
know,
All
RFP it.
North.
all north?
Right now, we work with All North. And we're also working with Cattle and Wright, two engineering firms. I believe that engineering firms, you should be looking at not just giving them like the keys to the town.
Mhm.
You should kind of make it competitive for other ones to want to do work with you. So that's what I believe in. And that's what I've been trying to do since the last 4 years.
So there's nobody on staff there that are ex-employees of the town?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Any other questions or comments?
And my apologies, I wish I would have known this because I would have had it in my capital budget. But again, the budget was completely, our 25 budget was completely done when I received this.
Sometimes things happen. That's what the reserve is for.
Well, as long as we're done with them, that's no more coming from there. This is it.
And we do have everything that we need. There's not gonna be anything else that all of a sudden, like the water inspection agency is happy with everything and
So
it can be closed. Okay.
I will not be going back to.
Well, I think the recommendation is there and it's been spoke to by by a previous counselor. We all know where we're at. So
Mhm.
all those in favor? That's carried. council hereby awards the command truck reflective. Oh, I get my groove and I just start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just wanna see if he's gonna run.
Sorry, guys. The council hereby awards the command truck reflective decal installation to Flair Coating and Graphics for the quoted amount of $1,908 plus GST, as recommended by the GM of Protective Services, with funds to come from GL account Capital Protective Services, number 421-240-820, and that council agrees to waive the applicable provisions of the procurement policy regarding obtaining 3 quotes in this instance. Councillor Watts. And Paul, I'll let you give some back.
Yeah, so I've got 2 quotes there for you. I did reach out to some of the local companies here. I did not get an answer from one of the vendors that would have given me my 3 quotes. The other company based out of PA does all of the deckling for the emergency vehicles as well. That was recommended to myself by the company that did the radios. However, being that we've got a company here that's willing to do the work and actually came in at a very competitive price, that was actually kind of a nice surprise. I think it's just as we always say, if we can keep it local, let's keep it local. So.
Thank you, Paul. Do we have any questions or comments? They had a question.
Plan, yeah.
Okay, now if there's no questions or comments, all those in favor? It's carried.
I was just looking, that ad that you guys put on with the Sharps, it was shared 42 times today, so it's good. Getting mileage.
All right. That council hereby awards the command truck emergency lighting, siren, and radio installation to GL Mobile Communications for the quoted amount of $10,979.31 plus GST, as recommended by the GM of Protective Services, with funds to come from GL account Capital Protective Services, 421-240-820, and that council waive the applicable provisions of the procurement policy requiring the issuance of a formal RFP or tender. So, and Paul.
Yes, so the company GL Mobile is the company that does, again, all of the reflective deckling for Prince Albert Fire, Parkland Ambulance, and the Prince Albert Police. They do all of that work. So in my mind, rather than going and getting a quote from a radio installer and then going to get one with a light installer, this is kind of the go-to. I know myself, my previous posting in Leroy, we had them do our radio work. So we had actually preferred them over a Saskatoon outfit. Rather than going to Saskatoon or Regina, it was someplace that was closest. And these are the guys, these are the experts. They can do all of this stuff. So.
Thank you, Paul. Do we have any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. The council authorized administration to enter into an agreement with Shannon Appenmeyer for the operation of the Centennial Arena concession with the option of first right of refusal after the 5-year term, as recommended by the GM of Leisure Services. Councillor Stewart. Chelsea.
Thank you. So we tendered the concession services at the Centennial and Jubilee Arena with a deadline of March 4th. We received one proposal, and that is from the current concession vendor, Shannon Appenmeyer. He's done a good job for us in the concession. We haven't had much for concerns. So we are recommending to proceed with an agreement with him. He has requested that he go to a flat monthly rate just to know what the fees are. And so we've been discussing back and forth about a fee structure for him. As council will see in the report, the high amount on there would be about 8,800 a year from the concession. So it's not a significant amount, but it's in line with what he currently pays when it's a slower year and the Hawks don't make it into playoffs kind of thing. So it's on a lower side if they were to make it further into playoffs, but we didn't have much competition for the concession. So we are looking at recommending to do a first right of refusal on this agreement, which is consistent with what we do at the restaurant in the Evergreen, just to keep some consistency there. In the agreement, you'll see that there is a cancellation clause where either party can terminate the agreement within 30 days, I think it is, or 60. So, yeah.
Thank you, Chelsea. Any questions or comments on this? Go ahead, Les.
So do we own the equipment in the concession?
Yeah, we own a lot of the equipment in the concession. He has some stuff in there, but like the deep fryers, the grills, the hoods, those are all ours, yes.
And it's all in good shape?
Yep. We've replaced a deep fryer or 2 deep fryers in the last couple of years and have done the grill recently as well. So yeah, it's all in good shape. And if there's concerns, then he lets us know.
He's been good. Yep.
He has been, yeah. We, like he provides good food, and we don't get complaints about anything that he's offered. So yeah, we have, like, he is open during games. He's not open during practices, which is understandable. There's not a lot of interest during a practice, but we're hoping that he'll be open during, the Hawks camp and stuff like that. But again, it's a business where it's hard to say that people are going to, go for a burger or not. So he opens when he can.
Any other questions or comments? Jeff?
I lived at the arena this winter and he was open at every single game.
Sure.
Yeah. Always provided good service. I said, no.
Yeah, we really haven't had any issues where we've had to step in, which is nice. I would hate to see it go to no concession or having to be run by a group, because that would be really hard.
He makes a good ring burger.
He does.
So,
He was in the
I was
top.
looking after the equipment. That's kind of where I was going.
yeah. Okay, well, if there's no other questions or comments, all those in favor? The council hereby accepts the offer from a local developer to purchase a parcel of no more than 52 acres for the amount of $60,000 with the land title transfer upon finalization of the purchasing agreement to be created by August 1st, 2025 and approved by council, and that the purchase is contingent upon an agreement for servicing and the creation of a site plan by May 1st, 2026, with a development to commence concurrently upon municipal approval of the servicing agreement and site plan, and that should the stipulated terms and timeline not be met, ownership of the land will revert to the town, with 20% of the purchase funds retained by the town to cover costs incurred with no additional expense to the town, and that the purchasing agreement will include a subdivision agreement with boundary alterations to the provided map made to ensure proper alignment, and that all development requirements are met, and that there will be no loss of current roadways or use of existing infrastructure required to facilitate the development, as recommended by the GM of Community Services. Councilor Blair. Now I see Derek is not here tonight, so Michelle, do you have some information for us?
I'm just wondering, I wasn't in today. Did Derek speak to you and fill you in on details, or I can?
Nothing additional than what we had
Okay,
spoken
it's-
to before.
It's a fairly detailed report. It wouldn't, there would be a purchasing agreement and nothing would go ahead until a servicing agreement was in place and it has the proposal, proponent has identified that they understand they would be responsible for the cost of infrastructure and all of the servicing. I don't know, I guess we could start with questions that anybody
Yeah.
has.
Please.
A, I think it's too cheap. B, right where we're gonna have trouble with the sewer trunk to begin with, they're gonna own that land. Beside Moffitt's.
Yep.
They'll have all the riverbank all the way along there too. I don't know. I see lots of issues actually. Lots.
I can speak to that a little bit. As part of the purchase agreement, there would be sections that would be turned over to the town. Like exactly what you mentioned, Councillor Vic, the sewer exit that is off Connell, that would be part of the town infrastructure. There's also a drainage ditch from a lot of the downtown that flows along this property that would also be retained or put into town infrastructure. So we definitely make sure those assets are protected.
Joyce?
I did read, that they're thinking of making lots of 50 by 150, which is 7,500 square feet. And each acre is about 43,000 square feet. So I kind of worked it out without the roads and everything else. Good 300 lots or a little bit less because of the roads. And I don't see any plan for actually developing. It looks more like an investment as opposed to developing, because they're gonna make the lots and then sell them. And if you're selling them for 20,000 a lot, even at the cheap end, it's quite a bit. And I would think there should be some environmental inspections along the riverbank to see if we can even do that.
And all of that is included in it would be included in the purchasing agreement and the servicing agreement. All of that would be required before we would bring anything for approval.
Jeff?
Of course, I know, we don't know much about this land. I've never seen this even for sale in on our groups or anything like that, right? We're right up against the river. We have no idea what's on the river. If you look at the Denton Street there, it's cutting in across the darn street right there. So we can be putting housing and lots right onto that street. Have we even talked to the people at the manor in regards to that?
We haven't at this, sorry, if I may, we haven't at this point. The intent was to try to make it open to discuss to see if council is, I guess, interested in selling it with the price. That's why there's a clause in there that there'll be no loss of current roadways or the use of existing infrastructure. So all of that would have to be designed and considered, and we're aware of those items. And so those would all be within the purchasing agreement, within the servicing agreement. We do know that there's at least 18 acres of land that would not be serviceable because of either the riverbank or infrastructure.
I see that it doesn't go into the gravel pit there.
That's Granfields.
Yeah.
It isn't gonna go there.
But it's pretty hilly in that area, I recall.
And swampy, isn't it?
Not necessarily,
it's
it's actually
pretty
got some
heavy.
nice little trails.
So,
I was gonna say, I think Les was.
sorry.
My concern is we don't know anything about the developer either.
That's pretty standard at this stage that we would not have access to who the developer is.
That's a concern of mine.
Locals, all I know.
Was this land like something that he inquired about, or was like as far as I know, this was never ever even like up for sale or an option. Is this the only piece, or was he given options of other areas that could be developed? I mean, there's other spots.
Well, as Derek mentioned, this is kind of very early stages, and this is what he approached the staff to inquire about. This was his proposal.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Our pending OCP, how does it rep into that? Cause we, to control the riverbank, to develop a trail in there, then there's a whole bunch of, we're mentioning some land that could be very, eco, we have to watch out for. And then we also have to, talk to certain people in development and everything like that. It's part of that OCP document, the way it's written. It's just not on anything.
I quite agree.
Yeah, it's not a complete plan of purchase. To me, it's just an investment. And we don't want people sitting on land as it is. That's why you have the base tax so high.
Right, and it says, purchase is contingent upon an agreement for servicing and the creation of a site plan by May 2026, with development to commence concurrently. If the stipulated terms and timelines are not met, then ownership of the land would revert back to the town.
Yeah, well, I am concerned that we have another piece of land like Hand Foods where it's just sitting there doing nothing.
And that's what that exactly is why ownership would revert back to the town.
Just not how they hold standing rods to hold the bank.
Did you have something to add there, Jeff?
Over here?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, as Ms. Sorensen said, that's why we have the land reverting back to the town if the servicing agreement is not done by May 1st, 2026. So that gives the developer some time to speak with engineers, get everything organized, do any studies that they may have to do in order to come up with a plan of subdivision prior to that time. And then also with the servicing agreement, there would be like a irrevocable letter of credit for the engineer works to have them completed of what's approved in the servicing agreement, just like what we did with McDonald's. So there's still a lot of negotiation and things that would have to happen.
Yeah, our new sewer line that we're planning, main sewer trunk trade, where does it go in this? Is it even in this area or no? Is it on the other side of the tracks?
No, it is not. Not on that side.
Well, I don't think so. Yeah.
I still have concern on that parcel of land that's by Connell Street that runs over to Riverside Manor. But is on obviously the riverside.
Jeff?
If we were to do something like this, I would remove the entire riverbank. Right from basically the corner where it goes from Manor Drive all the way down. And not sell that. In our OCP, it actually shows that if this was gonna become residential housing and everything like that, we would have need for parks and everything. Why wouldn't we put it by the river instead, right? Why would we sell that land, right?
Those can be like, so when a plan of subdivision is proposed, we can look at policies in the OCP and require that the developer put in a walking path or a bike path or something like that. Like that can be part of the subdivision process where, because that's in our OCP and if you're developing there, you're developing the way we want, which is those types of things. Otherwise, we don't approve.
Do they have to own the land for that though?
Nope.
No. So right now they would be.
Well, if they own the land and they're doing the development and our OCP has it in place, that part of that development must include the walking paths and the parks.
Mhm.
That would make sure that they could be put in, along the riverbank or however, it would have to be part of the development plan.
Yeah,
We still
they
maintain a
own
lot of
it.
control.
They still own
They
it.
would still own.
On it.
They would own those walking trails, those paths. Would they maintain them too? Would they?
Well, what about the
Well,
SAS
yeah.
power easement?
They could be put as either environmental reserve or utility reserve on the plan of subdivision. So then that could make up the 10% requirement of dedicated lands. Because whenever a subdivision is done, 10% has to go back to the municipality, either through monies or actual physical lands. So you would use that 10% in things like the walking trails and things like that.
And how hard is it to put a roadway over a railroad? Because there's only two ways in there so far.
Yeah, that is a concern I do have, and that would have to be identified at the subdivision stage to know what community planning would approve in terms of entryway and exit points. Because depending on how many lots are proposed, that is a concern.
And can I say something? There is a roadway right where that blue line is down right against the tracks. That's pretty well a trail that goes right along there that you can drive. You used to be able to drive with a vehicle. That one.
No,
I think it's more than being in and out, like crossing. So
Yeah.
on,
Or quick
power
access.
easement.
yeah, like we need right alongside McDonald's, there's that, right? So 12th will probably have to get extended across the tracks.
Yeah.
into that area at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just reiterate, I'm not opposed to the development, and see if we can get something out of it. I just don't think we should sell the riverbank whole area.
I think that's what they're,
So they want.
that's what they want.
I
So,
think that can be very valuable land. To even develop housing even on near the river would be very difficult. There's a lot of restrictions on that.
They would be required to have a geotechnical study and have all of those requirements.
But we want to keep that land for our own citizens for their own enjoyment forever.
it will be for our citizens if they buy the houses.
Yeah, but you don't want to let the same thing happen in Edmonton and Saskatoon along the riverbank where they built beautiful homes
Some slump.
and they're sliding down.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to
The
go
walking
there.
trail's a lot different than a home. Just-
That would be, again, part of this, like,
Yep.
with the geotechnical report. Which I'm guessing we're done.
And we kind of know that the bank is kind of disappearing by the railroad tracks to the road there, so.
That is something that could be put into a requirement with the purchasing agreement that the town, wants to retain ownership permanently of some lands and exclude them. Like, they'd be in the discussion at this point because it's one large parcel, but like going into the purchasing agreement, the town could say, we specifically want to retain this as town of Mifflin. So you could say that the riverbank lands could be retained by the town.
I'm just saying we say it now.
Yeah, and with that corner
True,
going
closer.
into the Riverside Manor,
Yeah.
Yeah.
ownership of a road to go into somebody else's,
Yeah.
that's an easement problem.
I think that.
Believe me, I know all about easements.
That is.
Squared off.
I think some of that stuff is probably fairly, simple to alleviate down the road, like.
And that's where the resolution mentions, adjusting the boundaries.
So you don't lose.
And that boundary would be adjusted
Yeah, I
to,
think they,
you can.
someplace along
No,
there.
no loss of current
Drops around.
roadways or
Right.
use of existing
Haven in.
infrastructure.
But
So,
it might be farther out.
so
Not
that
sure.
boundary would be adjusted.
No, I'd like to see the boundary.
so I think based on the conversation we're kind of having right now, there's concern about the riverbank and a little bit of boundary regarding roads and stuff like that. I know we're very early in this conversation as well. Perhaps it would be better off for us to table this discussion and bring some more to the table
Mm-hmm.
in the future with the developer. Just get a little bit closer if we could, or,
In price.
and price.
So,
Jeff, what do you-
price, I guess, what other kind of details? Because we did ask for some details, but the developer didn't want to spend a lot of money trying to put together items at this point in time to know if council was interested or not.
How was the price, like, how did they come to, like, is that just something they brought to the table?
That's
And
correct.
did they provide any insight into what they based that price on, or?
Just the amount of money that the infrastructure would cost to get there was the reason for the price.
So the big picture of investment.
They'll have to put a lot of money into this land to sell lots,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Millions and millions.
which means there could be a lot of work for people in town too.
I mean, in principle, it's exciting that someone's looking at that to develop it. I mean, I think it fits in a lot of our strategic planning and and where we wanna go, but I mean, obviously, there's a lot of questions unanswered and things, so.
There's other commercial lots that is what, $5,000 an acre?
That's correct, yeah.
It's barely 1,000.
I'd just like to be able to see to like a better idea of a plan of what they want to do. My whole thing was I'd hate to sell this and their plan is to subdivide it into all these lots. And if they don't subdivide it, somebody builds one house there and has all of this land for $60,000. A developer could build something and be sitting on a really nice piece of land for,
Exactly.
That would be covered in the servicing agreement.
so they'd have to have these lots all subdivided, base tax on every single lot that they would be paying until they're sold.
Yeah, that would be part of the negotiations of the servicing agreement, but yeah, there would be in the servicing agreement requirement to have engineered plans, which get attached to the servicing agreement, letter of credit for the amount or an amount that we choose of the cost to do the work. That's like an engineer
Yeah.
pricing. And so those are the items that kind of protect the municipality from that happening.
I'd like to see this come, yeah, I agree, you're right, table it. I'd like to see this come back. See if they're open to. Personally, I don't wanna lose the riverbank. I just don't, right? I think it's a bad choice. I think Saskatoon managed to control their riverbank and look how beautiful those parks are along there, right? To lose ownership of it, I think it's a poor choice, right? I don't care how much money it's worth. Can't get that land back. Maybe down the line we do something with it, but not, and definitely fix the easement. Make this thing a little smaller and see what, we go from there. Cause I'm not against the development. If they wanna put the money in the development.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think it's good to, but maybe change the border of it.
A little bit.
I quite agree. I think it
Yeah.
should be squared up a bit.
Yeah.
Or put it in phases.
And not anywhere near our sewer main.
Mhm.
Well, that's the thing that concerns me, but it also concerns me if these people are already living here. How
Yeah,
this changes, and this changes over here, so I'd probably wanna see it squared off.
we need access over the tracks at 12th almost for sure. Maybe even 9th, probably one of them. Probably 12th.
Yeah, you know, that's a fire department question.
Yeah, those are easy things to do. Or there'd have to be access from on this side of the tracks over with Denton Street.
So I'm not opposed to development either, but I think we have to really think about the riverbank and
Wouldn't it be our responsibility to put sewer and water into this, right?
developer can do
The
that.
developer can do all that.
Yeah, generally in the servicing agreement, the developer would be responsible to create, so it's a negotiation
Yeah.
process, so council could agree to pay for some.
Mhm.
The developer would put in the roads, the water, the sewer, storm drainage, that's applicable. It may not be in-road storm sewer, it could be overland depending on the style of development. Those would be put in by the developer. Typically you have a 2-year warranty period in which if there's any issues with that infrastructure, the developer is responsible. And then after that, it gets turned over to the town and becomes town infrastructure.
This is not opposed to it, I think just personally,
No.
I'd keep the riverbank, I'd clean up
Square it off.
Denton Street. And I would look at what kind of drainage we need to keep in there for our own.
Yeah.
Draining of downtown, you said, and then we have a better picture of what we're selling. Right now, it's just a big chunk of land.
Agreed.
So I guess, so those would be discussions that could happen during the purchasing agreement, but would council just kind of want to see administration's like map and kind of plan of what that would look like first? Is that kind of what I'm?
That's what I would like to see. I'd like to see more information on this.
Mhm.
So, we didn't even put up for sale.
Mhm. Maybe a change of the border of what we're selling.
That's my biggest concern.
I know they're gonna want the river, but
I think development is great, and we're all about like growth and development. But I agree with Jeff, like trying to maintain that riverbank, and maybe just changing some of the borders before we discuss it.
So maybe we can come back, maybe we can provide some insight really quick tonight, just as a quick fix kind of idea, like if we cut that, the little indent right where it says Manor. So if we basically sliced a line east to west across that.
Square it off, yeah.
Square it off.
So that we maintain the, behind the manor and along Denton Street, we maintain all of that,
Mhm.
then we can put a road in
Mhm.
for the first section. And then potentially trying to maintain some distance of the riverbank.
Mhm.
Is that something you would be able to put together and have that ready to go back to them?
Absolutely. With the riverbank, like, we know from, I guess with, Mr. Moffat's subdivision, as part of the geotech report, they require that there's no development within 500 meters of the river's edge. So we know that riverbank area is not gonna have development on it, because that would be
Yeah.
the same thing. Right now, it's just one parcel, so we just had to show the parcel as it is. But yeah, the intent would be that the riverbank would get excluded from the actual sale.
Well, if we had, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so on that other development then that you just talked about, that there's nothing within 500, who owns that?
The town.
Okay, so it would actually be no different than it is now on that development. Right, so we would own that
This should
strip.
just go all the way down.
How's that sound?
It would be, if you just seen something like that.
So we would wanna see that though. I wanna see the borders.
Yeah,
I clearly wanna see the borders.
Yeah, you don't know what the crown owns. 'Cause
Or South
we're
Power,
river-
Or
yeah,
South Power
South
have an
Power
easement,
being the crown.
500 meters would pick up a lot of those.
500 meters,
It's
that's
a half a
1,500 feet in between the. I was gonna eat up.
There's a number in the geotech report.
Well, at least half of this will be developing there. So you look at what they could do, and there's no way to put 300 houses. They're lucky to get
Yeah.
50.
Oh, sorry. So no, sorry, it's not 500 meters. My apologies. There's a set distance in the geotech report. For some reason, I thought it was 500 meters, but that's not correct.
Oh, it's,
The whole dang thing, essentially.
okay, so perhaps there's just a little more information that you could provide to us, Jeff, in a few weeks at the next council meeting?
actual lines.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the appetite for southern part of the riverbank, for me, it's none. I don't know.
Zero.
Zero.
Zero. There's your, that's council, I guess, and let someone else.
And it's gonna upset the continuity that we have with these people on Connell Street and Denton Street and Manor Drive, like
There is that distance there.
Yeah.
I like the idea of maintaining that.
Oh, there's no point in selling when you can't develop, so we can develop into like municipal reserve. But that was that, so then go that way, which is parkland.
I can say that was also a part that was mentioned for the price is knowing that there is a lot of land there that's not developable.
Yeah. And I'm also interested in that drainage, because we don't want to start.
Yeah.
Well, we can go look at Peters and figure out why you don't want to put a Peters Drive.
we can go look at that, right?
Apartment complex, right, where everything drains.
Yeah.
Right? There'll be a little flood, a little pool going between the two buildings here for the next little bit.
I think, it sounds like what I'm hearing, Jeff, is we have some stuff to work on as a town, on the town side for the next council meeting. And that'll probably include having some discussions with the developer there. And so we can get some better lines, and from there, it'll make it a little easier for us to negotiate on our side in terms of the pricing and stuff like that. I think everybody is interested in the development. We just need to get to the right situation. Okay, here it's just a little too vague.
Right.
On our side.
Yeah.
We know that they want to come in and develop. We just don't know what we can let them do.
Okay, yeah, I can put a map together and discuss with the developer, like where some of those lines would actually be, so it's clear for council.
Yeah, you'll get an idea of how many lots you could actually build in there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not what he's gonna think it's gonna be, put in all that stuff.
It's major, like, it's not a little job. What was the cost just up on Schultz or, our last development?
How many million was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking way more.
So I think for now then, we will table this to the next meeting.
You need a motion?
I've got, your motion on there. We don't need a vote though. Not to table it, don't we, right?
We can just read it to them.
We just agree. Perfect. Tabled it. All right, let's move on. Okay, that the reports of standing and special committees recorded as items 10.1 to 10.1.3 be received and filed. Councilor Fast. And has everybody had a chance to take a look at, I guess there is just the one there, hey? Oh, there's two, sorry. Everyone's had a chance to take a look at them. All those in favor? That council approve the emergency measures plan as presented, as recommended by the Governance Standing Committee at the meeting held April 2nd, 2025. Councillor Stenning. Okay. So who would like to speak a little bit to this?
We've discussed this, but both standing committees, and once this plan is approved, then we would be doing some tabletop exercises so that everybody is well versed in their responsibilities and what's required of them in the case of an emergency. I don't know if Paul has anything you want to add.
I think honestly, this is, we need this for compliance. We need to have an emergency plan. Again, we didn't remake the wheel. This was something that was a template that we used from SPSA, and we worked diligently and filled in all the blanks, and I think we're good to go. Everyone on both committees had a chance to look at it, and we did find a few things we had to clean up. People were gonna phone Stacy and get Bruce's number instead, but we got that sorted out. I was looking out for you there, actually.
Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, and like any plan, there's always going to be changes that need to be made in the future.
Absolutely, and I was assured again by SPSA, this is a living document, so we can change it. We don't have to bring it through. So if something comes up, we can just change it. There's no bring it back to council, pass it 17 times, and that kind of stuff. We'll just move on.
Okay. So does anybody have any questions or comments before we move forward? All right, all those in favor? That's good. That council approve the draft new infill lot development policy as presented, as recommended by the Governance Standing Committee at the meeting held April 2nd, 2025. Councillor Stewart. Derek isn't here.
He's not here. This is just the next in incentive policies when we've been revamping all of the policies. And it establishes clear criteria, and I don't know if anybody has any questions. It's to promote residential development, especially with underutilized and vacant lots. We'd like to see those lots fill up and be developed, and bringing in some tax revenue and to provide homes.
How many infill lots ish do we have? No less? Off the
Snuff knows the up to date number.
Spitballing.
Like 20, 25.
And would there be a communications plan rollout to like let people know about or?
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. That council agreed to amend the hours with which the town office is open to the public to 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday, open over lunch hour as recommended by the Governance Standing Committee at the meeting held April 2nd, 2025. And that this schedule be reviewed after 6 months to determine effectiveness. And that in order to facilitate this new schedule, office staff be authorized to switch to a work schedule of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. with a half-hour lunch break, as opposed to 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. with a full hour lunch break. Councillor Newberg. And Michelle?
I can. This is something that's been requested of us to be open over the lunch hour, well, quite a few times in the past. And this is just the timing that we're bringing it forward now. We've talked with the staff out front, and they're more than willing to work with us and have the office hours more accessible for people that are on their lunch break and can come in and do business during the lunch hour.
Thank you, guys. And do we have any questions or comments?
Just one question, how does that affect the in-scope people?
And that we would do a letter of understanding with the union and they would take a half-hour lunch break instead of an hour and stagger the times. So maybe 12 to 12:30 and 12:30 to 1, and they would stagger the times that.
Is there additional cost for their hours that way?
No,
No contract?
no, they would leave at 4 o'clock because they're only taking a half-hour lunch and there would be no change to, no cost effect.
Well, I know, I like it better because you can't get there.
Yeah, especially being closed at 4:30. If it was 5:30, it'd be,
Yeah,
Yeah,
or 4:30, it doesn't matter, so.
I know the city of Melfort just not too terribly long ago moved to these hours and it seems to be working well for them. So. And we've had the request quite often come to us to be open over lunch. So.
Jeff?
I agree with this. It's something that's been brought to my attention multiple times, and we're gonna review this in 6 months.
Mhm.
So at that point, decide whether we wanna add more hours or less hours or change a little bit. So,
Yeah. And the in-scope staff, they're more than willing to work with us and
I think it's a good idea. I heard lots over the last few years too, so. Okay, any other questions and comments? All right, all those in favor? It's carried. Oh, this one first. That the communications recorded as item 12.1 be received and filed. All those in favor? It's carried. And then I think I've got this one. This one next. That council hereby agrees to donate facility rental fees with an approximate value of $160 to the Nipawin Citizens on Patrol organization at the Evergreen Center for the purpose of training on April 26, 2025. Councilor Beck. Has everybody had a chance to read the letter that came in? I know it came in quite late. That added at the very end. They're just struggling to get things going and they've got people in the wings that want to join, but they need to train them first. So they're just looking for space. So.
What's the 26th of April? What's their time frame? Like, is it an all-day thing or?
I don't recall the exact hours. Chelsea?
We assumed that it was an all day, so that's reflected in the price. If it's less than that, like if it's 3 to 4 hours, it would be $100 donation. If it's just a couple hours, it would be $35 an hour, I think.
So a maximum of 160.
Right, that's a full day price for one of the rooms.
I think they're even hoping to do some training with some volunteers that are going to be on this, the Tisdale Citizens on Patrol will be even coming up. Train as well, so that's what they're hoping.
Are they looking for more members to join then all the time?
Yes.
Is this something that we should be helping them with a little bit of advertising about this day for people that are maybe interested to go to the Evergreen to be able to see?
I think right now they've got a list of people that are prepared to take the training already.
Okay.
They don't want to be overrun with people just looking for information. Okay. This is strictly training for people that are committed already. So they don't want to have, 60 people come in just looking for information because then they won't be able to do the training that they need. So I think they're looking at about 20 people coming in to go through the training that they need. In the future, though, that would definitely be something. I'm sure they'd be grateful for some help.
Well, I think the more the better, right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah, well, it's $160.
yeah. Okay, no other questions? All those in favor? It's carried. Okay. Down to the new addition under new business. That Mayor Zacharias be authorized to attend an interview with CTV on April 17th, 2025, with expenses to be reimbursed in accordance with the current policy. Councilor Blair. Any questions or comments? I believe I forwarded actually the email of Melfort's mayor doing this, so we're doing exactly the same thing for Nipawin. So great opportunity to advertise. If you have anything specific you think that you want me to mention, let me know, because I'll weasel it in there. So
Just all the great things we have to offer.
Don't miss one of them.
fishing, hunting, 100th anniversary, there's a lot to talk about.
100 years would be the big one.
Melfort's, I believe, was 5 minutes. I'm hoping for 10. So we'll see. Okay. All those in favor? Carried. That the regular meeting of council recess to a public hearing to hear submissions in support of or in opposition to the zoning bylaw amendments, bylaw number 1180/24 and bylaw number 1194/25. Councilor Stewart. All those in favor? It's carried. Read through all this, don't see it here. All right. As presiding officer, I hereby declare the public hearing open. This public hearing is established under the authority of section 24 of the town of Nipawin, bylaw 1170/23, the council procedures bylaw. The purpose of this hearing is to hear submissions in support of or against bylaw number 1180/24, being a bylaw to provide for a zoning amendment in accordance with the Planning and Development Act 2007. And to hear submissions in support of or against bylaw number 1194/25, being a bylaw to provide for a zoning amendment in accordance with the Planning and Development Act 2007. Bylaw number 1180/24, zoning amendment. I would ask the Chief Administrative Officer to introduce the matter under consideration.
And I will let Jeff speak to this.
Thank you. So this zoning bylaw presents changes to the application fees related to development, lists some sections in which the town can recoup costs from development from developers. It reduces the minimum site frontage in the newer R1A district that is just north of the water treatment plant. And that is to allow for more subdivision flexibility in that area. It listed additional architectural controls for residents, but those were removed. It has a new zoning map. It's the same map, it just is depicting all the zoning amendments that have been approved. We weren't able to just update the map. We have to get the new map approved. And then it laid out new forms for development applications.
Thank you, Jeff. So council may request any further information from administration. Do you have any questions or comments?
Is this part of the bylaw that is going to Twin Lakes that hasn't been dealt with yet?
Yes. This is the one that went to Twin Lakes and they didn't have, they didn't have quorum to make the decision and we haven't been able to get any response from them since.
We had some say
There was one response, yes.
would have given us more, and then there was one gentleman who had an issue with some of the frontage, I believe it was, right? But you said that was been removed, eh?
That is in 1194.
Oh, okay, because it's just talking a little bit, request for decisions. So that's just part of the blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
the history?
Yeah.
Not part of the bylaw.
Okay, any other questions or comments for administration?
I can, do you want me to introduce like bylaw 1194 right now too, like explain that one, or, or?
I think we need to go through it in this order. Or doesn't matter?
Yeah, let's do one at a
Okay, we'll just,
Okay.
Yeah.
so if there's nothing else from council, I would ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the matter. A second time, I would ask if there is anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the matter. Third and final time, I would ask if there is anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this matter. I would ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak against this matter. A second time, I would ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak against this matter. And a third and final time, I would ask if there is anyone who wishes to speak against this matter. Okay. So moving on, bylaw number 1194/25 zoning amendment. I would ask the Chief Administrative Officer to introduce the matter under consideration.
And again, I'll ask Jeff to provide some detail.
Thanks. With this one, we have proposed to amend the definition of accessory buildings to remove the requirement to have engineered drawings for placing shipping containers within the community. That's not really a clause that needs to be in the zoning bylaw. If anything, that should have been in the building bylaw. Our building official has the authority to require engineered plans when such are needed. So to have an automatic requirement to have them right from the get-go is not necessary. If the documents are needed, the building inspector will say so. The other part is to put in place regulations for the maximum width of driveways for single detached dwellings within a front yard. So it would require that no more than 60% of the front yard width be driveway, and also no more than 60% of the front yard area be driveway. For lots that are pie-shaped, those increase to 75%. And then it would also require that if a commercial facility, industrial facility, or if somebody is wanting to increase their parking, they would have to get a development permit, because that's the way in which we enforce parking regulations. So if someone's doing a complete redesign of their traffic flow on site for a big commercial thing, we would want to know that. That could impact traffic for the rest of the community. And then lastly, it removes the section discussing signage, because the town of Nipawin passed our own signage bylaw. So that doesn't need to be in the zoning bylaw as well. It'd just be duplication.
Thank you, Jeff. And do we have any questions for administration or a request for information? Joyce?
So this is the bylaw that is stipulating the width of the parking, and I do have concerns about it. I think some were brought up through the emails of Twin Lakes. What happens when somebody just puts gravel all over their frontage? And I've seen that, but it's not necessarily considered a driveway. Is that part of the allowance in a bylaw? And for people who don't have back alley access, does that limit them? And another criteria is, what if you can't park in front of your house during certain hours? So you reduce parking availability to the homeowners.
I can speak to some of those things.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the gravel, I guess if someone were wanting to increase their driveway, they would come to the town and say, I'm wanting to increase my driveway. You are allowed to landscape with gravel, so I mean, that would be acceptable. I guess if where it would become a concern, I guess, is if the whole area was gravel and there's vehicles all over the place, then you're not really following the intent of what the bylaw is. For back alley parking, If they don't have back alley access, then yes, it does reduce the total available parking, because you're only saying 60% of the lot can be driveway and parking. So that is an item. And then the last one. Yeah, what you
Parking in
said.
front of your house, there's a lot of no parking. Let's just take 6th Street East. You got 2 sides that you can't park on during school hours.
Right, so yes, so there would be cases like that where that would reduce, I guess, the number of vehicles that could be on site.
Do you have any other questions or comments? Jeff?
Are we having trouble with this whole parking thing? Is this an issue that we're seeing in town that's creating a problem, or it's just?
Where this, like, there's kind of 2 different areas where this had stemmed from. Quite a few years ago, there was concern with the amount of, like, boats, campers, vehicles being parked in people's yards, like just being their whole front yard being full of different things. So that was kind of, this would reduce it to at least 60%. The other item was one that came up recently with bylaw, where somebody was parking in their yard, not on a driveway, and somebody was parking behind them. And then that person complained that there was somebody parked behind them, but it's not an actual driveway. There's street parking on the street. That person was choosing to just park wherever in their yard. So then this would kind of say, like, if it's actually designated a driveway, then, you can't block somebody in their driveway.
That's just common sense, though.
Yeah.
That's not.
There's
common.
so much of it, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I know.
Think about that.
Yeah, and
That's that easement problem.
I can't speak to that. We got dragged into it after the RCMP were also dragged into it, so it was getting quite nasty, unfortunately. The RCMP had said straight out, there's a curb here. You're you're choosing to park on your front lawn. There's nothing that we can do, and we had to do the same with bylaws. And we explained to these individuals that if your driveway was bigger, then for sure, then you have obviously a concern there, right? But so this hopefully would alleviate that, and I think driving around town, if you look, there are a number of vehicles that are parked on front lawns, and far be it for me to say it looks great, but it does not look great. And I think this is, at least we can kind of curb some of those activities as well, make it look a little bit more.
Yeah, I've seen some of that, but part of it is from the snow too. So,
I'll grant you that 100%.
and this year was really, really bad because the streets got really narrow, so.
Jamie, you had something to add?
Yeah, just for snow removal, there's a few places here that they won't shovel the driveway, so they just park on the street.
Mhm.
But we get a lot, actually, there's quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a struggle all winter here.
And this wouldn't limit any kind of street parking, but it could potentially result in more people parking some things on the street. So I do see that.
Mhm. And I think that's more dangerous. Park a trailer that's not hitched up.
48
That I
hours.
don't think is a
I was
lot.
gonna say, yeah, there's also
I don't know if your bylaw covers that.
48 hours.
Yeah, it's 48 hours.
campers and stuff, pardon? Yeah.
Campers, boats, not
Yeah.
just 48 hours.
Yeah.
Or any vehicle, 48 hours on the
Yeah.
streets.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think that's being done well though.
I know, I put my camper in front of my house before, and I'm like, I got 48 hours before I gotta, where someone's coming and.
Move it 5 inches.
Moved it in front of the neighbors.
Only because I'm like, okay, I'm going camping on Friday and I have it out on Monday, I'm like, dang it. If you try to get in my back alley, it's insane. It's suicide.
Well, we are a tourist, town too, so some of our rules should take that into consideration as well.
Just go down, park it on 3rd Street West, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
do we have any other questions or comments for administration? Okay. I would ask if there is anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this matter. A second time, I would ask if anybody wishes to speak in favor of this matter. And a third and final time, I would ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this matter. I would ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak against this matter. A second time, I would ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak against this matter. And a third and final time, I would ask if there is anyone who wishes to speak against this matter. I now declare the public hearing closed at 8:20 p.m. That the public hearing be adjourned and the regular meeting of council be resumed at 8:20 p.m. Passed. All those in favor? That's carried. Imagine if we didn't pass that, we couldn't finish the meeting. That bylaw number 1196/25 being a bylaw to authorize an amendment to zoning bylaw number 763/2000 be introduced and read a first time. And Jeff, I believe, will speak to this a bit.
This bylaw is proposed from a member in the community. It's a change that they're wanting to make. They had purchased a house in the restricted development zone. And in all of our residential zones, a secondary suite is a discretionary use. In the restricted development zone, it is not. Houses themselves are a discretionary use. And so once a discretionary use is approved, it becomes a permitted use at that site. So once it's approved, it's allowed to be there. And so in my mind, that once a house is allowed to be there, you should be able to have the option to build a secondary suite in that house if you want, because it's wholly contained in the house. It doesn't change. It would change in the sense that you could have one more vehicle parked there, potentially two, if you have people staying in the secondary suite. But that's not a very large concern. So I would like to propose that we do amend the zoning bylaw to allow for secondary suites in houses that, get approved in the restricted development zone.
You have any questions or comments? Maybe just an example of where a restricted zone would be.
That is, there's two part, well, it's the riverbank development area is where it would be the equivalent. So that would be by where the truss manufacturing plant was, just south of the old bridge, all the way down to the land that we were talking about potentially selling just a little while ago.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? Great, all the way down to the round table. And tonight, why don't we start with Jeff?
Did the governance standing committee. It was not too long of a meeting, I don't know, it's long enough. We had some resolutions we had to deal with, mostly the OCP was the biggest talking point. We went over that, I had a long list of comments that if you guys go on to the governance, you can see my long list of ramblings. Some of them are rambling and probably make no sense, but by the end of it, I was getting tired. So, but there are, I think, some good points to bring out there. So I hope everybody gets a chance to read those. So when they do have a chance to come to us and talk to us, I believe on the 17th, we'll be ready for that. Okay? That's where we did the emergency measures plans, and we talked a lot about council travel as well, right? That subsidized spade and neuter program came back to talk to us again. Can't seem to ever get away from that program, right? But there's some changes that we're going to make to it, but it wasn't on today, right? We saw the infill And we talked a lot about rabies, which was terrible. Well, that's terrifying, but that's gonna be in the animal control bylaw. And of course, that is all that we kind of touched on. That's what we did in the governance. That was the only thing I have to report. So I had a dance competition. It is down our Nipmuc girls here, but they always do.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jeff. Joyce.
Well, I got to go to the Torch River, rail meeting on, last Monday, I guess it was. It was interesting. They presented 2 years of, financials, so they're up to date for 22 and 23. In 23, we did spend about $150,000 on an engineer to investigate the bridge and the railroad. And it looks like it's okay, but they don't know if down the line if they'll get restricted on going across. So that's a big issue to come across into Newfoundland. Huge. As far as the highway part of it, it's not savable without millions of dollars fixing it. This bank right on the east side is caving in and it's exposing part of the beams and stuff like that. Apparently, there has been some salt erosion with the steel. And there hasn't been any inspection on the pillars, the concrete pillars underwater. So if for some reason that came back that it wasn't savable, I would say that the rail line would be in danger of crossing the river. And they don't just haul grain, they are also storing cars for other organizations like salt or whatever, so they make a fair profit on that. And so they need to be able to get across because that's where they're storing it, is on their lines. And they've done a lot of work on doing those railroads. They have 3 employees, full-time employees, plus an accountant or a bookkeeper, does some work. And I think it's a worthwhile venture, so hopefully that railroad stays in place for sure. That's about it, I think, that I learned. But there was about 20 people there. There was some conversation of asking why they're not, if they could sell their shares or dividends, and they're not at the yet. They're not.
Okay.
And I know the town has some shares, and I just can't remember if it's $25,000 worth or 5,000. Those 2 numbers come to my mind.
And between that and the biomass ethanol, I wouldn't venture to give the number. I'd have to look.
Yeah, I know that you're both in line there.
Thank you, Joyce. Lisa.
Over the past couple weeks, I had the opportunity to connect with the community in a couple different ways. On Monday, I attended Twisted Trees Spring Fling, and it was a great evening, sellout event for the 3rd year in a row. And then on Saturday, like many Nipmuc residents, I made it out to the Lions Club Trade Fair. It was great to see the parking lot packed and so many people out on such a beautiful day supporting local businesses. And of course, enjoying the world famous Spud Nuts that I've come to appreciate since moving to Nipmuc. Both events were hosted at the Evergreen Center, so it was fantastic to see that facility so full of life throughout the week. And it was encouraging to see such strong community support for the local events. And I also wanted to give a quick shout out to our town staff, from walking the runway to keeping everyone hydrated, and to all the work that goes on behind the scenes to pull off events like this. It was great to see our town employees contributing to the community in such a fun and visible way. And finally, but of course no less exciting, I participated in the governance meeting, which I do find incredibly valuable, especially as I continue learning and working on good decision making here at the council table. That's it for me.
Thank you very much. Kylie?
I had my library meeting on March 26th. That was pushed back a week, and we found out there that the librarian has resigned, given her retirement after many, many years there. So we're in the process of looking for a new librarian, and we're trying to figure out ways to come up with doing some book fairs and stuff like that with the library to try and get rid of some of these books and get some more action and activity and people walking through the library. And then on April 2nd, I had the governance standing committee, which was good. They've already talked about that. And then on the weekend, I was in Saskatoon for the Canadian Mud Racing Association meeting because my daughter races cars. That was a lot of fun. And that's been my last 2 weeks.
Thank you very much. Les?
Pursuit came in today, by the way. I never got any meetings the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure why, but I did get to attend the trade show this weekend as a vendor, and it was extremely busy and extremely, I guess, shocked at the amount of people that were coming through town that weren't from Nipawin. There was a lot of people that came and sort of like asked us where we were from, and so of course I asked them where they were from. They were from all over the place. There was a lot of out of town people at the trade fair this weekend. Again, great job to the Lions. I don't know if there's anybody Lion members here, but another fantastic show. I think 41 years, they said.
Yep.
I asked Kevin Verzanowski, have you missed any? He said, no, he's never missed one. So that's hats off to Kevin for his support. But anyway, yeah, it was a great weekend. Met lots of people and handed out lots of cards and had fun with the mystery machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big attraction, I think.
Oh, it was huge. Yeah. I got pictures of mums and dads standing around waiting for the kids to get done playing in there. It was cool.
Well, thank you. And Stacy?
We had the park AGM, that went well, and we had a park meeting. Looks like everyone, it's gonna be staffed and our managers are staying. We've got contracts for both of them, and we have also a new park manager, so. And I did attend the trade fair, like always.
Yeah. Thank you. For myself, on March 26th, I attended with Derek out to Red Earth Cree Nation, where we met with some members of their council and the chief. They talked about the excitement around the transition at the Fast Gas station here in town. Transition is going to run all through the month of April, and hopefully things there will be finished up and they'll have complete ownership at the end of the month. They did express that they're going to be watching for other opportunities for business growth here in Nipawin as well. They did have a lot of concern and discussion around the hospital, specifically around things like wait times and having closer access to dialysis was what they brought up. Then we did go for a tour of the community, and they are really hoping for a slow thaw because it's getting wet out there. So they did invite us to come out to experience the flood with them. We haven't made it. So on March 27th, I attended virtually the Sumisher AGM. So at that, the SUMA nominations were ratified. Mayor George Glenn from Melfort will stay on, and Nora McLaren, who is the mayor of Neville. They have a third position that will be nominated later this year. There were also 2 elected positions, and Carrie Martin, who is the Director of Corporate Services in Assiniboia, and Jim Weniger, the CAO from Dalmany, were both elected to the board. Sumisher currently has 254 members, which is 55% of the potential partners in the province. So they are over the halfway mark and growing every year. On March 27th, I attended the NEOS grand reopening at their new location on 1st Street West. And just as a note, so people kind of know if they don't. They provide support to individuals and families in the prevention and intervention of interpersonal violence with a goal to create a safe and supportive environment for those in need. And on a bit of a side note, they also had a booth across the way from me at the trade show, so you'll probably see a picture of me in their little frame sometime in the coming days or weeks. On March 28th, I attended the Nipawin Hawks Spring Camp, and there were a lot of people in that building. So I met with many families, including there was a family from my hometown, Meadow Lake. The family that was the furthest away that I personally met was from 100 Mile House in BC, which means they traveled 1,500 kilometers to play hockey in Nipawin. So that's just a testament to our hockey program. And we did give away I took a couple handfuls of swag to give away to people there as well. On April 2nd, as we discussed around the table, we had our governance meeting. I won't get too much more into that. And then besides attending the trade show as a vendor, I was pretty busy there as well. So it's kind of what we've been up to on our end. So thank you guys very much. That the regular meeting of council of April 7th, 2025 be closed with Mayor Zacharias in the chair pursuant to section 122A of the Municipalities Act and citing exemptions contained in the Local Authority Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act